Hello and welcome to Eve 101. This is a series where we're going to look at how to start out in Eve Online as a completely new player who doesn't know anything at all. So this is the very first introductory video, and in this I want to talk about what Eve is. You may have played a lot of different games, and Eve is probably a bit different from those, even if you've played MMOs. Eve has a reputation for being a very tough game with a lot of player-on-player action that can be quite harsh. This is partially true. It's not the only part of the game, and it is a rewarding game, but it is not for the faint of heart. If you can't handle getting blown up every now and then in your ship, this is probably not the game for you. But I want to start by talking about what kind of flight sort of experience you will have when you're playing Eve Online. You may be familiar with flight simulators where you're going to get into the cockpit where your view is the same as the pilot flying that craft, and you are using a joystick and you're flying around obstacles and things like that. And that is not a very realistic idea of what space flight and space combat would necessarily be. And Eve Online is not really that. I mean, in Eve Online you can have an in-cockpit view of things, but I'd never ever fly this way, and I've never seen anyone else fly this way either. You can have a sort of slightly semi-realistic type of view, third person behind the ship, which is fine. And I always use the tactical camera where you are looking at the ship from the outside, from any angle that you want. And you can use the mouse wheel to scroll out, make your ship very, very small, or scroll in, make it very, very big. And there's a reason for this, because the nature of your ship combat is going to be taking place at very, very vast distances, and so you wouldn't necessarily be able to even see who you're flying against, who you're shooting at, and so often you will need to zoom right out so that you can see other ships, which I don't have on my screen at the moment, but there's actually an Iteron Mark V right there, so that is actually another pilot. So if I was shooting at him, this is the kind of thing I'd be seeing. There's me, there's him, and we would be engaged in a dogfight around there. So if I'm sitting in here trying to track a ship, he's basically sitting still at the moment, so that's not difficult. But if he was trying to orbit me very, very quickly, I'm going to be clicking my mouse like a madman trying to keep up with where he's located. So you need to be zoomed out a bit when you're combat flying so that you can see what's going on. So what is Eve like? Well, it's not a flight simulator. That's the starting point. If you were to learn how to fly a plane in real life, one of the things that you would have to learn how to do is to fly with instrument-only flying. That you would use that if you were, say, flying at night where you can't see anything, or if you were flying in a storm, or just in fog, cloud, where you had no ability to see anything. You have to depend upon your instruments to fly. And if you think about space flight and the vastness of space, you're not going to be able to see anything anyway. Most combat, or a lot of combat, will take place at tens if not over 100 kilometers away from your target. In space, you wouldn't be able to see them, so you'd be completely dependent upon your screens, your instruments, as it were, in order to be able to actually engage with that opponent. And likewise, just when you're traveling around, if I wanted to travel to a planet somewhere, I have to look and go, oh my god, what are these? Where is this planet? I don't know how to find this planet, because of course there's moons and asteroid belts and structures all around this place. It would be near impossible to try and fly through space like that just visually. So Eve is like instrument only flying, where you're flying using your instruments, and the instruments that you have available to you, you can actually see on screen right now. So I have just for example, I'm not going to get into all of these just yet, but you have, for example, you've got your overview there, you've got your main sort of controls down here, you've got a scanner up here, you've got some other information about the system that you're in and so on, and then you can have things like scanners, and you've got locals so that you can see who's actually in the system with you and so on. So you're going to use these instruments to help you fly, and I know it looks kind of a little bit demoralizing when you come into Eve like this and you're thinking, what the F, how do I do this? Well, that's what these instructions are for, and that's what the tutorials in game are for, and so on, is to help you to learn how to use these instruments to fly around. Now, some people call this spreadsheets in space, and it's a little spreadsheety to be sure, but once you engage with this model, you'll find that it's very easy to move around, to get around, and I think it more realistically displays what it would be like to fly in a space environment than does a game where you're sitting in a cockpit and looking at enemies who are maybe only 1,000 meters away from you. 1,000 meters away in Eve Online is basically breathing right down your neck. Most engagements will take place starting at 20-30 kilometers away. You can have missile ships that will engage targets at over 100 kilometers away. So it's a bit more realistic in terms of engaging with the game. So that's kind of a little bit of an introduction just as to the style of game that Eve is. So I hope that was helpful in that sense. We didn't fly anywhere, but I've just talked you through some instructions. If you hang around, we will fly, and we will do a hell of a lot of other stuff as well, so that you can see how to do everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you can do so by donating Plex in-game using your Plex Vault. If you are not able to give Plex, you can donate ISK. If you do donate, please make sure to flick me an Eve mail and make your donations to Exalted. That's EXZOLTED. Thanks.